And we're back to recording again. And anytime you're ready, Waltraud, you can continue.
Where'd you go? She's not sharing a screen.
Okay.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Unmute.
We're trying to figure out why Waltraud is
He's muted.
having difficulty, but I can hear you. You can hear me. Give Waltraud a chance. I think she just muted. Let's see if we
There
can
you
get
go.
that.
Something happened here weirdly. Can everybody hear me?
We can.
She has my name.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Then here we go. Ah, gotta laugh, right? You gotta laugh. Sorry about that, guys. So I remember the conversation when I was standing at the kitchen table with my parents. They were discussing a difficult topic, and I had this aha moment. I thought I understood what they were talking about. I offered a solution, and I was told I didn't understand. I was too young. And I took away from that moment that parents or authority know better. Who am I? What do I know, right? Then around 2 years later, it's actually interesting. It pretty much happened every 2 years where my parents decided to build a multifamily home. And I clearly remember both my parents had full-time jobs. After work, they built their home by themselves from scratch. So my father is a master carpenter. He knew everybody in the trade. They built together with all of his colleagues and friends a multifamily home, which meant there was not a whole lot of time for kids, and money was tight. So sitting on the sideline as the 6-year-old, what did I hear? You need to work hard in order to achieve something. And there's never enough money for what you need. So my takeaway was, you've got to work and don't expect that there's anything ever left over. And then in 3rd grade, we were in math class, and our teacher had given us a math problem to solve. And then he calls me up to the chalkboard. So we still had chalkboard at that time. And he put an equation on the board and he said to me, Waltraud, go solve it. And I looked at it. I solved the equation. And then he turns to me and he says, I've given you a 5th grade problem. You did very well. And I had the entire class behind me look up. And you know, they were watching, and I could feel that. So what did I take away? I'm smart. Or it could be in any other situation, you're dumb, you're ugly, whatever. So I got the label, I'm smart. And that was a label that I needed to live up to pretty much for my entire life, you know, and others know who I am. He told me who I was. It didn't come from me. And then at the same time, a little bit later, I was very much brought into women's roles. I was told that I needed to go into business administrative support. That's what girls do. Plus with, you know, whatever was going on health-wise with me, I couldn't do anything I wanted to be. I actually wanted to be a master carpenter before I wanted to be an architect. But my family felt the best way for me was to go into business administration and in a support role. And by the way, girls will have children anyways. So that was something that I, at that point, started to feel very strongly. And I needed to prove that I could do other things. I knew already at that point, I'm not your typical woman that's going to stay home and take care of the family and fill a gender-specific role. So at that point, that was already clear, but there was just a little glimpse of what was going on. And then later on, still, you know, the issues with my health, it's like I needed to be strong, because if I'm weak or sick, I can't be part of the team. And I saw that in my daughter. Many of you know that she was a professional competitive dancer. it didn't matter if she was healthy or not. She needed to be every day in the studio to perform. And with COVID, she decided this is not going to be what she's going to do. And she actually quit. But the other message that I heard was ignore your body no matter how you feel, because you gotta push through. So taking all these messages, by the age 11, I believed I needed to be a good girl. Others knew better. Life is friggin' hard. You gotta live up to the label that you get. You need to prove that you can do other things. In my case, I needed to prove that I can live in a man's world and actually be a physicist. And the biggest thing, ignore your body no matter how you feel, just push, push, push. So by 11, 80% of my habits were set to be a hustler, to push myself, and to be just on my way for burnout. And then I read a book by Glennon Doyle called Untamed. And it says, 10 is when the world sat me down, told me to be quiet, and pointed to my cages. These are the feelings you're allowed to express. This is how a woman or man should act. This is the body you must strive for. These are the things you will believe. These are the people you can love, and those are the people you should fear. This is the kind of life you are supposed to want. And that really hit me, because so many of us are being told from the outside who we are, what we need to do, without ever learning to check in. Is this really who I am? And then trying to fill all those expectations, and we're just scrambling, trying to make it happen. So having listened to my story, and in a way it's a universal story, except, some of the things may look different for other people or happen at different times. I want you to just take a moment. If you want to share, great. If not, I totally understand, because it's personal and it takes courage to share things like that. What are some of the earliest memories that you have that actually shaped you into who you are today? Part of it is how we are born, what our personality is. But a good part of it is what society tells us we need to do, or what our parents or teachers or any other influence is telling us who we need to be. So what are some of those habits? And some of them are good. They may serve us really well, but some of them are really making our lives miserable as well. So give it some thought and see what comes up for you. So now that I set the stage of what actually happens on a much more subconscious level to get us to this overwhelming status, there's actually something that we can do about it. And everything that I share, I have just 3 people that I've added into the presentation. Every testimonial is obviously with permission. And I am sharing that because I'm so proud of the people that I've had the privilege to work with. And it takes courage to know that something is off. It's not just the weight, it's not just the digestion or the cardiovascular issues or whatever. There's this underlying desire, even if you can't express it, where somebody says, I need help, I need to do this differently. I'm not going to find it in a diet book or in a pill bottle. I'm ready to make some changes. So Robert was somebody I absolutely loved to support on this journey. He did amazing. And I can't share all the other stuff except only what's here that I have permission to share. But I am so proud of all the transformation of each and every one that goes beyond, like in his case, the 25 pounds that he lost, and having more balance in his life. So with that, it comes down to nourishing your body and your mind. Now, what does that look like? And I got good news and bad news for you. Let's start with the bad news. And that is, everybody is unique as your fingerprint. So to give you exactly a food plan is absolutely meaningless, because what's good for you may not be good for the person right next to you. But there are some common basic things that is true for everyone, pretty much everyone. And I'm, there are some exceptions, let's say, for their food allergies or whatever. But in general, there is a foundation and of foods that help you be in optimal state. And there's a difference between being healthy and being in optimal health, and how you can fuel your body for energy, for clarity, for the ability to function. That is very, very different from one person to the other. So that was the bad news. And the good news is we are all unique. So there are ways to find out what is actually ideal for you to make you in the best state that you can be. And that is some stuff that I work with people on. We're doing a lot of different exercises, and I have tools that helps them to actually figure out what's ideal for them, so they don't have to look on the outside for what's the next fad diet. The other one is keeping active to really stay healthy and alert. And that is, yeah, we all know that, right? But, and here comes the but, I cannot tell you again how many times I hear, oh yeah, I hit the treadmill, I just run, I go for my jog, and I feel so much better. Yeah, that is great. But if you're going for burnout, if you're overwhelmed, maybe that half marathon you're training for is not the right thing, because your body is already stressed. So if you know me, you know I love cars, and I love driving fast cars and standard cars. Not if I have to do city driving with the kids in the car, but for fun. When you redline an engine, there's only that much you can do before you really burn out that engine. And the body, in a way, is the same way. So when you are under stress, you're already in the red zone of your engine. Then when you put any HIIT workouts or marathon running or whatever, all those high intensity workouts on top, you're even pushing your engine more. So what sometimes is a lot more healthful is looking for other exercises like yoga, like walking, like Qigong. I am in love with Qigong because it is movement with mindfulness, and it allows me to relax my body, relax my mind, and still exercise. So there are different ways to do that. So when you are under stress, going for a six-pack is not the right thing. So it's something that we need to just bring our whole nervous system down to be stable again and to get us into healing mode. Next one is beliefs and self-talk. And I love this guy because every time I look at that photo, I say to myself, and when was the last time you were absolutely in love with yourself? Like this, it seems to be the guy with himself. Because most of the time, what we do is we have that little voice that says, you are stupid. You did the same thing again. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you have always messed it up. I'm always a warrior. You get the idea? We talk so negatively to ourselves, that things that we would never say to a friend or to a spouse, hopefully, but we say it to ourselves. And again, we're putting stress and pressure on ourselves. We don't have belief in who we are. We don't believe that we can change. And all this other stuff, food and exercise, only gets you that far if you don't address your mindset and how you talk to yourself and how you treat yourself. So that is something that I also really like to address. That's very often forgotten. Confidence and boundaries. Yes, so talked about boundaries already, confidence a little bit. How do we believe in ourselves? But then the other part is boundaries. And I had a conversation with somebody that was really interesting. He's in his mid 60s. And he said, I am so glad I'm out of my middle 50s, because that's when I was definitely in burnout. But what I've learned, he had a great support system. He made sure his body was healthy, but he didn't have boundaries. So when he was asked to travel, he was on the plane. When something didn't go right at work, he tried to cover it, not cover it up. That's not what I meant. Try to fix it himself. And he said when he became older and he became more financially set and the mortgage was paid off and the kids were through college, he had the courage to say no. He had the courage to say what needed to be said in order for his department, for his team to actually be more effective. And that's when his career changed. It wasn't when he was saying, yes, amen. It was when he became a valuable contributor and said what needed to be said in a constructive way to move everybody forward. So he had the boundaries to say no, and he had the courage to speak up. And sometimes when we are in this overwhelmed situation, we are afraid to speak up because we fear of being let go or not playing the company politics, or if we do it one way, our customers are not going to like us anymore, or whatever. So that is something that I very often look at with my clients as well. And then systems, routines, and priorities. Those are moments where if you're a business owner, you look at your business and say, okay, what can I do to automate, to pull myself out a little bit so I can focus on what I'm good at? Who can I bring in for support? If you are in a retirement situation, where is my support team that can help me with things that need to get done, some routine stuff? So you get systems and routine and priorities back to what matters to you. And what matters to you is something that later on we're going to get to, that I would like you to think about as well, because I have a workbook that will help you connect the dots of your very unique burnout story. And last but not least, addressing the subconscious beliefs and programming, which is what I talked about before, the story that we went through in our lives. I just stopped at the age 11, but it doesn't stop at that point. It's just a constantly putting habits on us that influences how we work. And I want you to understand that when I address subconscious beliefs and programming, it's from the perspective of a coach, meaning current moment, forward, goal-oriented. If it is old trauma, past extreme situations, that's where we would then bring in a mental health professional that is trained to deal with trauma and intense stuff. So the intersection is the current moment. Therapy goes in the back, goes backwards, and coaching goes forward. But there's definitely an overlap in the collaboration. And often it's not necessary, but I do have clients that see a therapist for working through their stuff, and then we work on where they're going. And yeah, then hopefully life will all calm down a little bit more. So something else I wanted to share is Alan is somebody that also came to me. He has made incredible strides in his business, and it's an absolute pleasure to support him. I'm so proud of him. But again, he came through the door of health. And very quickly, as he started to feel better, to think better, he started to think bigger. And then if you remember early on in my career, I was in business development and new ventures, and I get to support him not just on his health, but also on his business. And it's just such a pleasure to see what he has created. So I am so proud of all of these people, what they have achieved. I'm just the conduit. I'm the one that kind of gets them to do things, but the work is an internal work. It's their work. So how do we stop feeling overwhelmed and risk burnout? There's one choice, and I am very familiar with that. I'm like that toddler with a blanket over your head. For many, many years, I thought, I know this stuff, keep pushing, it'll be okay, you can pull through, and eventually things change. And I earned myself the title of Terminator. And that is a quality that is great if you want to get stuff done, but it's not a quality if you want to have balance between your health and your business. So I needed to do number 2, which was actually looking at my story, connecting my dots, and getting support. And what I have today that I wanted to share with you is a workbook where we go step by step, or you go step by step. So it's totally free. You can go to my website, it's down there. And if somebody could put that in the chat, nothing required. You just click on the link, you can download the workbook, and it walks you step by step through all the milestones. And it's not milestones, it's puzzle pieces is I think a better word, that fit together, that gives you a picture of why are you always hustling? Why are you overwhelmed? Why are you putting too much on your plate that it's humanly possible to handle? And then if you want, I'm offering a connecting the dots session where we can then, it's a standalone session, go in and take a look at what you found, uncovered, and work on a plan together to take some of that pressure off. Now that is not free, but it's just to cover my time as to support you on that. But the workbook and the revelations that are in there, absolutely free. You can go ahead and download that. So that's at waltraudunger.com. And then the actual pages connect the dots of burnout, and there's little dashes in between. So this one, third person, again, came to me with digestive issues, had a lot going on. And at the end, what was so nice was that she came to the realization, nothing really matters. Even her achievement at her job don't matter if she doesn't make herself a priority. And she's a happy, anonymous client, because some of my clients, because of who they are, want people to know, but they don't want to know who they are. So they share their experience, and I promise them I will not let on who they actually are. So, but they are real people. So with that, I would say if this resonated, if that spoke to you, grab that workbook, work through it. It shouldn't take you long, maybe an hour or so to go through, but I promise you, there will be aha moments for you. And if you just want to email me afterwards and say, hey, I did it, this is what I learned, fine. If you want to have an hour of my time that is safe and private and supportive and no judgment, then grab one of the sessions that, and I have the link on that page as well. That's how you can reach me. And then we are ready for Q&A. So I think I'm going to stop the share. All right. Here we go. Okay. I'm not screen sharing anymore, right?
Right, you're not screen sharing.
Good. So before we go into the Q&A, I have one last thing. Every time I prepare for a presentation, I never do anything canned. I go in, I meditate, I get quiet, and I tune into what I think my people need. And I pulled down this book from the bookshelf. I hadn't looked at it in a while, but I pulled it down and I opened it, and it opened to this page. It's a poem by John O'Donohue, and it says, "To come home to yourself. May all that is unforgiven in you be released. May your fears yield the deepest tranquilities. May all that is unlived in you blossom into a future graced with love." And I added that today into the workbook. So if you're interested, it's in there as well. And with that, I'm going to be quiet and I'm going to listen now.
Okay, so I'm going to stop recording so that no one feels that first I want to say thank you officially on the stop recording portion. And much appreciate what you've shared, and I learned a tremendous amount. So I'm going to stop recording so that people can ask questions if they'd like.
Great.
So,
Thank you.